Hi, stamping friends. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm Sherry Parker. I'm a demonstrator in Mason, Ohio, and I usually come to you live on a Wednesday night, but tonight we're having to go a little bit early on Tuesday, August 18th, because I've got a work thing tomorrow night. So thanks for joining me. If you're joining live, if you're joining by replay, that's awesome too. Just remember that if you comment on or share my Facebook Live videos, that your name is automatically entered in to win the projects that I make each week. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I'm gonna turn my camera over and I'm gonna show you the really fun project that we're gonna make tonight. Before I show you the project though, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna use this evening. The scalloped Christmas cheer dies. So this is something coming in September in our new catalog. So a little sneak peek on that. We're gonna use those dies. And then the Fern and Flora bundle, the stamps and die cuts, which I've shown before, it might be familiar to you, is in our summer catalog. So we'll be using those. And then the card we're gonna make this evening is this card here. It's a really cute, fun fold card. But I think what makes it unique is the technique that we're gonna show tonight. And this is a bleaching technique. And I think you're gonna really love it. So I wanna show you how to do that. It's not a new technique, it's an oldie. If you've been around a while, you've probably actually maybe done this. I haven't done it in years. So it's a lot of fun to bring some of these old techniques back. So let's get started and I will show you how we made this card. Okay, so for tonight, we're going to be focusing on the bleach technique. And I wanted to show you first, so hopefully you can see this okay. So one really cool thing about Stampin' Up! Cardstock is that it is dyed all the way through. So like if you were to tear it, you would see the color of the paper all the way through. If you apply bleach to our cardstock, you will see it starts to take some of the pigment away. Here I've done like one little swipe of the paintbrush, and then to the right, I've done a second hit. So you see kind of one hit, two hits. And I've done it on a bunch of different colors here to show you. And I would encourage you to experiment. So if you have a card design in mind, try the cardstock and see how it bleaches out. Some bleach out more white and some more yellow. So depending on the look that you're going for, it's a really fun thing to kind of play with and try. So one other thing to point out, this here is two-tone cardstock. And in the middle of a two-tone cardstock piece it's white. So this is actually printed on white. And when you apply bleach to it, it doesn't do anything. So I actually did apply bleach here and you can see that nothing happened. So if you were to accidentally drop bleach on your paper, no worries for a two-tone cardstock. For a regular cardstock, you can see here like a line. Any droplet you make will start to remove the pigment of the ink on the paper. Okay, so that is what we're gonna be doing tonight. And also, just to kind of also mention, there's a couple of different ways to use bleach on your stamping projects. So you can emboss like I did here, and that's what we're doing this evening, and then color in with bleach. Or you can make a stamp pad yourself out of felt, add bleach like for a solid stamp, and then you can get some bigger images that actually take the pigment out of the paper. So a couple of different ways to do it. We'll be using the embossed method here tonight, and we'll get started on our card. So for this card, before I actually made the card, I was kind of playing around with different embossing powder colors. So I have this Peaceful Pine cardstock here, and I used black embossing powder, gold embossing powder, and white. And you can see that each creates a different look. So for tonight, I thought I would use the black because I felt like it really accentuated the image better in this particular case, but really you can see it can go with any color you choose. All right, so for this card, it's a fun fold, as I mentioned, and you're going to want a piece of cardstock that is 6 3/8 by 5 1/4, and then I scored it at 4 1/4. So that's how you come up with your flap here. And I've cut designer series paper to 1 7/8 to fill this flap here. And this is the Moonlit Flora designer series paper, and I'm using both sides of this, and we're going to adhere that to our card base. So again, really any color combination would work, but I love using as much of the designer series paper as I can, and I like using both sides. So this card features both sides of this particular piece of designer series paper. So there's your card base. And then next, what we'll do is, and I've got my card over here, I'm going to show you how to use the bleach. So when you're embossing, one thing to do is to rub a piece of paper over your cardstock with the embossing buddy. I selected the Secret C because based on the little experimenting I did, I really liked how that one bleached a lot. So I've used the embossing buddy. That kind of takes the static out of the stamp. And then with that beautiful stamp set here, I will use my Versamark ink, stamp it onto the cardstock. And then of course you can select any kind of embossing powder you want. As I mentioned, I'm using the black. So I'll simply kind of sprinkle some black embossing powder on here. The contrast won't be great. It'll be hard to see black on the Secret C, but then you'll heat it with your heat tool, like you always do when you're embossing. And through the magic of TV, here you go, that's your embossed image. And the embossing, the reason you want to emboss is because that can withstand the bleach. So now for the fun part of bleaching your cardstock, you're going to want to use some bleach. I put some in a bottle here that I felt was kind of contained, so I wouldn't hopefully, get bleach everywhere. And you'll need a paintbrush, and I will show you what I mean. I'm going to simply dip my paintbrush into bleach and start coloring in. So you can pretend like you're watercoloring or something, but the fun part is it's like a science experiment. You will see the pigment of this paper just kind of start to disappear and fade. And I love how that looks. It's a very natural look, and you can choose to leave it simply how you've bleached it out, or you can see where I had a little line of bleach that oozed there, because sometimes bleach is not really, really thin. So just to show you that the bleach is very sensitive on this paper. But we are going to be cutting this image out, so it's not a big deal here. You don't have to cut an image out, of course. You can certainly, have a focal point of your card. Just be a little more careful than I was so you don't get any weird lines. But I'm going to let this dry. You can also use a heat tool. A heat tool will speed up that process. And as I showed you in the beginning, you can do 1 or 2 hits. So if you chose 1 hit, it would be kind of more this color here. But then if you added another hit of bleach, you would have kind of a brighter color. So we will let that sit aside. I did go ahead and I have one that's already dry, so we can use this one for our card. But it just takes a second, and if you don't have time to wait, you can always use your heat tool. So that is the bleaching process, and it's a lot of fun. So another thing to mention, you can leave it like that, or you can also color in after the bleach has dried. For this one here, I used some of my watercolor pencils like this with a blender pen, and I just put in little pops of color in there, if you can see that. Another thing you can do is use your Stampin' Blends and just put little pieces, pops of color in your image there. So I used a variety of different greens and yellows and things for that. So depending on, the look you're going for, you can choose to color or to leave it bleached. And in this particular case, I'm leaving it bleached. because I do really like that look. It's very natural looking. And now what we'll do, and I am going to take my die cut machine and I'm going to cut this out. So this particular set has a coordinating die cut. And what I would recommend is just maybe taking a piece of our washi tape and securing your die cut. So we'll just make sure it doesn't slip around. And then we'll go ahead and run this through our die cut machine. And it might wiggle a little bit as I run this through because this table is a little bit unstable. All right, so we ran it through our die cut machine and it looks like that. So that will be the focal point of our card. And like I said, I like the natural look. One thing I did add is a little bit of our beautiful little Wink of Stella shimmer. It gives your stamping projects, there's no color here, but it just gives it some shimmer. So we can all use a little shimmer. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but I did put that on there. It'll dry, it'll be really nice. Okay, so really to finalize this card, I did use this beautiful scalloped rectangle Christmas cheer die. So pretty, and I cut it out in both Secret Sea and white. The white will go on the inside of our card and the Secret Sea piece will go on the outside. For the inside of our card, I'm going to use just a real cute little flower from that Fern and Flora dies. And another greeting here that says, "You make the world a better place," which I think that's such a nice greeting. And then I will use my Wink of Stella also and just lightly color in the flowers from this stamp. And you can see, because the ink hasn't completely dried, that it pulls some of the ink and it actually colors in the flowers and the leaves and everything. Plus, it gives it a little bit of shimmer. So that's going to be the inside of our card. And I would recommend that you put that one in first. So I will glue this one down on the inside of our card, centered as best you can, just kind of eyeball it. And then for the front of the card, we will use our fern that we did and our focal point. I did cut a piece of that designer series paper so that it would fit nicely within our rectangle here. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that. And then we'll take our fern, and I'm going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals and kind of make that stand out a little bit onto the front of our card. I did go ahead and I stamped from that same stamp set, Sincere Thanks, with the same Secret Sea, and I'm going to tuck that underneath our fern so it's kind of peeking out like that. And then last but not least, I want to decorate with some embellishments here. And these are the in color embellishments that were part of last year's in color, because this Secret Sea was from our 2025-26 in color grouping. So pretty. And then I'll put a few of those embellishments there. And then last, we will go ahead and adhere this to the front of our card. Now, I told you that I think you should, of course, put this piece in first. And the reason is that way you can line this up so it covers exactly. Okay. And then the last touch I'm going to add is a bow. And I will use, you can either use glue or you can use glue dots, whatever you like to use for that kind of thing. I feel like glue sometimes, for this is kind of a bigger bow. I have two different ribbons here. I'm going to use I'm going to use glue, but you might need something to kind of tack it down. So a stamp block works pretty good for that. Okay, so there is our card. And again, when you're bleaching, just a little helpful hint, wear white or clothing that you don't really care about, because in case you were to splatter, you don't want to ruin anything that you love. So I'm wearing kind of white tonight just because I can be messy. So this is the card, and I hope you really liked it. And I hope that you'll try the bleaching technique, because it is a lot of fun. And you can see the one that we started earlier. See how it's starting to really bleach? So much fun. Okay, so we will set those aside and we will draw for the winners of last week's cards. As I mentioned, if you comment on or share my Facebook Live videos, I will enter your name into win the projects that I make each week. Last week, I made these 2 cards. We had a really fun fold. And I love this with the scenic coast, and then also with the Halloween papers. So everyone who commented on them and shared, your name is in this glass here, and we're going to draw the winners. So the first winner for this beautiful coastal card is Brenda Erickson Sarkinen. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. I will contact you, Brenda, so I can mail you your card. And second, for the Halloween card, the winner of that one will be Cheryl Norton. So I will mail these cards to you. Thank you for watching every week. I really do appreciate it, and I think it's so fun to share all the creativity, and thank you so very much. And have a wonderful rest of your week. Sorry I had to come a day early, but hopefully you can catch me, now or later, and would love to hear from you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you. Good night.